So as we move down this here, now we're going to get actually into the meat of the report, right? So it's always great to have this summary level view, especially from a top level financial planning aspect, but we want to know the actual jobs that are making up this revenue. So as I go down here, what you're going to see is it's broken up into three sections: your backlog, your prospective jobs, and then we have a third bucket for miscellaneous revenue, which we'll kind of put aside for today. But if I start by looking at my backlog, these are going to be all of my jobs that currently have a remaining backlog left on the contract. And this is where at ProNovos, we try and make it as easy on you as possible. You're not having to upload this. You're not having to enter the data. This is going to pull directly from your ERP system. So once you've set that contract amount in the ERP system, set up the job, it's going to flow directly into ProNovos and show here. And then it's going to tell me my contract amount, what prior revenue I've earned. And then this top row here, this is going to be my projection on a month-by-month basis. And then underneath it, if it's any prior months, it's going to show me what my actual revenue in that month is. So it's a really good way to kind of see that projection versus actual to say, okay, was this just a pipe dream when we said we were going to do X amount of revenue this month? Are we actually kind of on track in terms of what we've expected? And then it's going to highlight the current month for you. You can kind of make any modifications here for the future months. So if I wanted to update this 200,000 to 500,000, I can make that edit here. And then it's going to show me what my 2023 total is, and then what my remaining backlog is going to be at the end of 2023. So it's going to take that contract amount minus the prior revenue, subtract all the revenue I'm doing in 2023, and I know how much is going to be remaining at the end of 2023 that I can then project out into 2024 or subsequent years.
Did I hear you right that this will pull automatically from the ERP? You mean I don't have to dump the data in Excel and then upload it? This is like that?
Yep. Yeah. So it's going to pull every night. It's going to pull contract amount. It's going to pull job cost. It's going to pull your budget. So you're not having to calculate even this prior revenue or what your actual revenue is. It's going to do all that math and calculation for you and data prep. So you're really focused on not necessarily aggregating the data, but purely on, okay, now that the data is in the right place, let me really think about it and focus on making sure my projections are accurate.
Nice. Nice.
So the other thing that you can kind of see here is, this is obviously a lot of information, especially if you have a lot of projects. So you can look at it at the company level here, but you also have the option to drill into a project. So I'm going to select this one right here. And what this is going to do is it's going to open at the project level. And what you're going to see is some KPIs around the project. So I can see what my revised contract amount is, what percent complete I am, the earned revenue, the backlog, my job cost to date, my projected final cost, and then my cost to complete. And again, all this information is going to flow directly from the accounting system. So you're not having to manually update this information here. It's going to happen automatically. And what this allows you to do is you can have your project managers be a part of that revenue projection process, because they're going to know the financial details in a more intricate level than the CFO or the controller might. And when we think about how we recognize revenue in construction, it's not based on when do you build a project or when do you collect cash for the project. It's going to be based on that percent complete basis. And how we see most contractors calculate that percent complete is job cost divided by what you think your projected final cost is. So how this is set up here is it's going to allow the PM to actually forecast, hey, what do you think your costs are going to be in each individual month? And then based on what they think the costs in the project are going to be, it's going to calculate what does that mean from a revenue standpoint.
So life and projects are not always linear as we sometimes like to think they are. I noticed that we have different ways of doing the projections. Linear is probably the most common, right? But sometimes what we're trying to do is identify the perfect S curve. So will you talk a little bit about the different ways of showing the distribution?
Yeah, so if I look at this here, I have $323,000 in cost remaining to complete on the project. Now I can do it just like I was doing at the company level, where I can go in and modify each individual month. Chances are you're not going to be very accurate doing that, right? There's a lot of different variables going on a construction project. It's very hard to get a high level of accuracy if you take it kind of month by month. But what we see in construction a lot is there's kind of common curves that a project kind of follows. So the most basic one is just like a linear curve, right? If it's a $12 million job, and it goes for 12 months, I'm going to do $1 million each month. So what this is going to do is if I apply the linear curve, it's going to take that $323,000. It's going to say, all right, how many months do you have remaining on the project? It looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to do 323,000 divided by 7. And it's going to apply that in each of the individual months. So very quickly, I can get to a place where, okay, I now have a starting place projection based on this here.
Which
So the
is
linear.
sorry, I was going to say, which this is not really going to be the way it happens on the project, right?
No, yeah, it's like, if anyone does a perfect linear curve, that's pretty darn impressive. And I think what we see most common in construction is more of an S curve, right? The project kind of slowly ramps up, it gets very busy, and then it kind of ramps back down at the end. So if I apply the S curve here, that's kind of what I'm going to see here, right? All right, I slowly ramp up and then I ramp back down, and I can save that. And now I can kind of see, all right, I have an S curve projection on this project here.
This is
So
so powerful because it takes a lot of the guesswork out for the PMs. We're actually giving them guardrails, if you will, in terms of how they might spend that cost remaining on the project. Now, I know that they can go in and they can update it at will, but for a project manager that has a lot on his plate, or a project manager that is somewhat new to the position, this is pretty nice tool to have, I think.
yeah, and I think it's a really good kind of baseline, right? I always like to think of it, hey, you need the script that you're eventually going to deviate from. So even if you say, okay, this S curve's not perfect, you can then kind of go in and modify it kind of once you have a starting place. And I actually think the easiest way to modify it is not thinking it from a cost perspective, but really thinking about it from a percent complete perspective. So if I switch tabs here, I can kind of see, okay, that S curve, this is what it means, like it's going to play out month by month. But let's say, you know what, I don't think that's really right. I can just kind of click in here and say, hey, I think I'm going to be 50% done in July. I think it's going to be 65% in August. I think it's only going to be 90% in October. And you'll kind of see as I'm making these adjustments, it's updating that curve in real time. And then if I go back to the cost, it's actually going to update what that means from a projected cost standpoint as well. And then kind of once I'm done making these adjustments here, it's going to flow back to that company level view we were looking at. So now once the project manager is updating that percent complete on a month-to-month basis, well, that's automatically going to be reflected in your revenue projection. So it's
Wait
kind
a
of
minute,
taking.
hold on, wait a minute. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, time out. You're saying that when you make adjustments on the cost side or the percent complete side, well, the first thing you said when you came here, you said the revenue projections, typically it's based on your percent complete. So it makes sense. You make adjustments here, it's going to flow over into the revenue projections.
Yep. Yes, exactly. So if it says, hey, in July, I'm 50% done, well, that's going to be 50% of my contract is going to be my revenue completed in July. Then in August, it's going to say, okay, if I'm 65% complete done, that's going to be my total revenue at the end of August. So now if I know what I did in July, and if I know what I did in August, I can kind of say, okay, the delta between that is the revenue that I actually did in August. So once you've updated either the cost or the percent complete here, it's going to flow right back in here, and you're going to see those updates accordingly at the product or at the company level.